So this whole saltwater crocodiles are living dinosaurs thing, yeah, that's not wrong. These death logs with teeth have turned riverbanks into horror films. After all, they have one of the strongest bites in the animal kingdom that comes to around 3,700 psi, which, by the way, is about 3 times stronger than a grizzly bear's. And despite being literal tanks that have survived since the age of dinosaurs and shrug off pain like it's a suggestion, they're not invincible. Actually, quite a few creatures could humble them. So today, we're looking at animals that can straight up 1v1 a saltwater crocodile and beat them in a fight. And no, we're not talking about ambushes or sneak attacks. These are straight up head-to-head fights on riverbanks. Okay, sounds good. Now before we dive into the meat of the video, we're on a road to 100k, and I'd really appreciate it if y'all subscribed, like this video, commented what y'all think. But before we get into which animals would win a fight, let's get some quick baseline stats of these saltwater crocs so we know what we're working with. So just how large is the saltwater crocodile? Well, typical adult males grow around 13 to 15 feet in length and weigh in between 900 to 1,700 pounds, with them actually averaging around the 1,000 pound mark. Okay, we're not talking about the rare 20-foot legends, just your average nightmare with scales that you typically see in the wild. But aside from size, crocodiles are incredibly durable. We all know that they have very thick scales that are actually very hard to puncture, and this is thanks to them being nice and ossified. But they also have a muted pain response that makes them unusually resistant. There are clips of them literally losing a leg and still going about their day like it's nothing. But then they also have a pretty heavy offense. It's bite. But simply, Salties have one of the strongest recorded bites. But what was it actually built for? Well, despite common belief, a crocodile's bite is not a one-shot insta-kill thing. Actually, far from that. Its jaw strength really is centered around grabbing and holding on. For example, that's why you see zebras, buffaloes, and other animals managing to break free of a Nile crocodile's bite and just don't instantly die. But the real danger comes after the crocodile gets a secure bite. They do a move called a death roll, which is when the croc twists the limb it grabs onto violently to either sever or fracture it. So yeah, the croc's dangerous, no doubt, but it ain't a one-shot insta crush / kill like the T-Rex, and definitely not unbeatable. In fact, the big croc has a con, which is its stamina. They have very poor endurance since lactic acid builds up quickly. So yes, they are very explosive and can pivot their bodies pretty easily given their anatomy, but their endurance is definitely an issue. So what does all the information I have given you mean? Well, any animal trying to beat the Salty needs to have insane stamina and durability to where it can outlast the croc and fatally wound it, or must be simply so big and durable that the croc really can't do much before getting absolutely bodied. That's the bar. Now let's find out the few animals that can actually humble the saltwater crocodile. In no particular order, by the way, okay? So first one up, we have the polar bear. Starting out with a controversial one. But yeah, if they do 1v1 on a riverbank, not in the water, the bear is most likely coming out the winner. So just how big was this Arctic menace? Well, fully grown males average between 900 to 1,200 pounds. So this actually puts the bear and crocodile at basically the same weight range on average. Where the croc is scaly, the polar bear is a fur-covered, fat-absorbing nightmare that is just as durable. It's wrapped in loose-fitting skin and dense fat, which actually makes it hard to latch onto. That blubber and fur can shift under pressure, making bites slide and grips slip. Not to mention the bear's movements are way more coordinated, calculated, and agile. It's a high IQ predator that stalks seals on unstable ice, so it knows how to actually gauge timing and move around efficiently. And don't forget, it's packing as well. The polar bear has a serious bite, sharp claws built to tear through seal and beluga whale hide, and a long reach with its massive forelimbs. Basically, it has a lot of weapons at its disposal, and also has a lot of endurance. So the bear would be able to adjust mid-fight better, outmaneuver the lumbering croc, and capitalize on openings. It would most likely dodge or outlast a Salty until the reptile gets tired. Then it mauls it into the mud by jumping on its back and whatnot. But let me tell you, it's going to be a close one, no doubt. And sure, the croc might be able to get a lucky bite in, but with the bear's shifting fatty fur, it would make it hard to get a secure bite. And by the way, do you honestly see the croc being quick enough to even catch the bear and fracture its limb / neck before it fatigues? No, not in my opinion. So more often than not, the bear is winning a 1v1 on a riverbank. But speaking of crushing the croc in the mud, the next one on the list could literally do that. Enter the Pacific walrus. Yes, another Arctic tank rolling in to humble the croc. By the way, it's utterly putting the croc to shame in terms of size. It isn't just some beach bum with tusks. It's a 2,000 to 4,000 pound unit that chooses ice picks as weapons. And you want to talk about defense? The hide alone can weigh over 1,100 pounds, which is actually a little larger than the salty on average. And that's just their skin. In fact, their hide is so thick and rubbery that even polar bear claws struggle to cut through it. So if the polar bear can't reliably get through without receiving punishment, there's nothing the crocodile could really do against the Great Wall of Fat. Where's the croc even gonna target? Seriously. And since the walrus is pretty rounded and tubular in shape, and given the structure of the croc's mouth being basically board-like and not angled or pointed compared to something like the bear's, it really couldn't get a solid bite anywhere. Honestly, its best hope is to bite it on the flippers, but even then, the walrus could literally drop its entire body weight and pancake the crocodile into the mud. And let's not forget those huge tusks. They're ice pick sized weapons used to stab and swing like it's trying to kebab its enemies. They've even been known to cripple polar bears. That's not just a sentence you hear lightly. So if the croc is not getting steamrolled or bodied, it's gonna get hole punched and potentially get its head kebabbed. But simply, if the polar bear hesitates to mess with a bull walrus, then the salty, who is used to snatching deer legs and bird wings, is not gonna have a good day. And speaking of bad days, the next one on the list always seems to be in a horrible mood. The hippopotamus. It's a multi-ton river demon with anger issues and jaws that could turn a crocodile into confetti. Now look, salties are tough, but it trying to 1v1 a hippo is an IQ test and a demonstration of survival of the fittest. And sure, the croc is durable, but the hippo is simply on a whole other level. Hippos not only support a very robust and wide frame, but they're also more muscle than fat and have skin so thick, up to 2.5 inches deep, that it's been known to straight up shrug off rifle shots. The size difference between them is huge. The average bull hippo clocks in anywhere between 3,000 to 4,000 pounds and is armed with a mouth that backs up its mean attitude. Yeah, the croc has big jaws, but the hippos are just so much larger. And the hippo, by the way, doesn't just have only a strong bite. It has tusks and canines over a foot long, capable of easily puncturing or spearing through anything dumb enough to test it. One well-placed hit, and it could turn the croc into a kebab. Let's not forget, we've already seen what hippos do when they run into Nile crocodiles. They bully them. And when your croc brother is seen as more entertainment than a threat, you know the salty stands no chance. So yeah, the salty would just get bodied, gored, and express shipped to the afterlife. But speaking of absolute units from the African wilderness, the next one on the list is the giraffe. Okay, now I know some of y'all might be thinking, a giraffe? Seriously? Yeah, seriously. It's a walking skyscraper with sharp hooves the size of dinner plates. And their kicks have been known to cripple lions and almighty push an ostrich. But it's simply the height and sheer size advantage that makes it stand out. The bull Maasai giraffe averages around 3,000 pounds and stands at a ridiculous 18 feet tall. Yeah, that's not just tall. That thing could literally look into a second-story window. But okay, tell me what the croc is even supposed to do to take down this thing. Seriously, there's something called leverage, and the croc's flat and low-slung body simply doesn't have it. It's not getting anywhere near the neck, and any attempt at lunging upward would be met with a skull-caving kick or a simple body slam. And even if it managed to latch onto the powerful leg of the giraffe, all that would do is set it up to be stomped repeatedly until its spine gets folded like origami. Basically, it's gonna get stomped, kicked, or have its skull cracked with the weight of the entire giraffe pounding its hooves on it. Once again, adult giraffes are even off the menu for Nile crocodiles. So if its slightly smaller cousin doesn't want the beef, I don't think the salty would either. But speaking of animals with powerful kicks, the next one on the list is definitely up there. The shire horse. Now, a lot of y'all sleep on this one. You hear horse, and you probably are thinking of some backyard pet eating apples. But the shire horse is the largest living breed and the strongman of the horses. It is literally built to be a power workhorse used to haul carts, push plows, and drag very heavy material around for hours. And by the way, they clock in at a whopping 1,800 to 2,400 pounds. So this is literally a ton of problems for the salty. And unlike the croc, which tires out quickly and is lumbering, the shire horse is built for sustained movements. This thing could run laps around the salty while barely even breaking a sweat. Yeah, the shire horse is going full Captain America, I can do this all day type of vibes, while the croc sits there like a fatigued giant log. And again, just like the giraffe, The leverage and attack positioning for the croc is very bad. The horse has an insane height advantage to the point where the croc's whole strategy of trying to bite at it and drag it isn't going to work out. Remember, the horse is going to be running around, bucking and rearing up, and just being very hard to catch. It has a very tall posture, and its kicks / stomps to the croc is going to be very deadly, especially when the salty fatigues. To put simply, the croc is not bringing down an animal of that size that's constantly bouncing around like a pre-workout maniac. It's going to get hit with those bone-snapping kicks and cardioed into a concussion. It probably goes similar to how that one horse fought an alligator. Anyways, we're down to the last one on the list. But before we talk about that, here's some honorable mentions that could beat a salty. Now listen, I wanted to include them, but for time's sake, I'm just going to flash them up on the screen right now. Trying to save y'all some time. But okay, last one is the southern elephant seal. Yeah, this is an absolute juggernaut of the seals, and it can absolutely body the salty like it owes him rent. The southern elephant seal, specifically the bull, doesn't just show up to the fight. It crushes the scales on the way in. These flopping bulldozers range from a casual 3,300 pounds to an absurd 8,200 pounds on the high end. And at 8 to 10 feet long, these beasts are basically the size of a pickup truck with the attitude of Vegeta. And it not only outweighs the croc to make it look like a lizard, but it also has way more durability. They have insanely thick hide, dense fat, and of course a lot of muscle packed under. It's literally designed to tank full body slams from other multi-ton males during mating season. So if the croc's plan is to bite and hope for the best, it's already losing. Just like the walrus, it would simply make the croc eat dirt and absolutely crush it. There basically is no real way for the crocodile to get a good grip on the rounded blubbery body without getting crushed into oblivion, just to add salt into the wounds. These things have a nasty bite as well. They have a skull so huge that it makes the grizzly bears look like a toy. Yeah, tell me what the croc is even supposed to do here. It's going to be in the same situation as the walrus, but thousands of pounds worse. Basically, the croc would be steamrolled into the dirt like a speed bump and bitten like a chew toy. So yeah, that's about it. Tell me about any animals that I could have missed, and even if perhaps tigers or lions could have made it on. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, send a comment, and check out the rest of my content.